Hello everyone. This is the Cluster API office hour of meetings. Today is January 11, 2023. Before starting, just a quick reminder that we abide to the CNCF code of conduct. So please be kind with each other. We have a meeting agenda. Let me pass the address in the chat. If you want, feel free to add a topic in agenda. In order to write to the agenda, you need to subscribe to the SIG cluster Lifecycle mailing list. And if you want to speak, please use the raise hand feature in Slack. Last but not least, please remember to add your name to the attending list, so we can keep track of everyone participating in the meeting. So, as usual, when we start our meeting, first of all, we welcome new participants. So, if there are some new participants that want to introduce themselves, I will give a little bit of space for them to speak up. Okay, it doesn't seem that we have new participant today, so let's move on. We don't have an open proposal, if I remember well. Let me check. Open proposal, okay, we don't have current open proposal currently. So let's keep going. Discussion topic. So I have a Stefan, feel free to speak.
Yep, just open proposals. I don't know if you want to bring up, or if you already did in a previous meeting, the change, the open PR that we have, I think, for the KCP proposal for the remediation, if you want to mention that.
I have a point later in agenda. So. Thank you. Okay, so I have a couple of PSA. First of all, I have moved the old meeting notes to a separate document as we do at the beginning of every year. The document is linked here, but also if you want, all the past meeting documents are linked at the top of the notes document. So second, yesterday we released cluster API v1.3.2 and v1.2.9. Those were patch release with small fixed in them. And yeah, again, kudos to the release team that is really rocking it. Yuvaraji.
I just wanted to add, the release team did great work for getting these releases out. And also thanks to Fabrizio and Stefan for helping with the KCP fix that was close to the release, and then getting those test grids green so that we can cut the release in time. And also just want to add that please go check out the release notes, because one of the things that was added in these patch releases is upgrades to certain Kubernetes versions are now blocked when using KCP. The versions are mentioned in the release notes, so please go take a look. And the reason, and it was, you can also find the link PR there for more details on more context on why these upgrades are blocked. But the idea basically is for Kubernetes versions that are still using the old Kubernetes registries, upgrades to these versions are blocked, because we essentially want to encourage people to move to the newer patch versions of Kubernetes that are using the newer registry. That is all.
Thank you, Yuvaraji, for reminding this point. For who attended last week meeting, basically this was the point discussed by Stefan. And the issue happen only if you are using the upstream registry, so the default registry that Kubernetes uses, which was changed in minor release in Kubernetes and in kubeadmin due to a call for action in order to reduce the infrastructure cost that the project was basically facing. Okay, so if there are no more comment on the patch release, I have one last topic that I would like to discuss with the community. So I have a PR where I'm proposing a small set of amendment to the KCP proposal. TLDR is that in this proposal, we describe how do we do remediation when a control plane node fails. Currently, we support only remediation when the control plane has more than 3 replicas, or when the control plane has 1 replica and it is basically upgrading, and so it has 2. And this, let me say, a fairly limited set of scenario. With this amendment, I'm proposing to make it possible, a change that will make it possible to remediate failure happening while we are provisioning the cluster. So before we get to the 3 replicas, and most specifically, the change will allow to remediate both failure to the first control plane being provisioning, but also to the following one when current replica is less than desired replica, which is a limitation of the current solution. So basically, we are expanding the set of use case that KCP remediation support. And another things that I figured it out while designing these changes, that there could be scenario where we do not want remediation to continually retry. I'll make you an example. I'm provisioning a cluster. I have an error creating the first control plane because or quota, or because there is an error in the cloud, in the kubeadmin command or whatever. And if in the current situation, what will happen is that cluster API will continue to retry. This could generate cost if you are running a cluster API on an infrastructure. So what I'm introducing in this design change is it's also an opt-in control of how many retry KCP remediation will do. So we retry, for instance, you can define to retry 5 times, and then if after retrying to create the same machine for 5 times, it fails, basically KCP will stop, and the user can eventually restart the behavior by changing an annotation. So I think this is interesting. Feedback are welcome, and hopefully I can also send a PR soon, so everything will become more concrete. Florian.
Yeah, just a quick question around the retry behavior that you just stated. Like you said, throttling, for example, is one potential issue with retry, if I remember correctly. I think there are 2 different scenarios here, right? There is the one scenario where, for example, we directly get throttled by the infrastructure provider because the API call, the synchronous one, essentially fails. In this one, I guess we don't want to change any behavior here, right?
No, let me say, KCP remediation relies on what the machine health check determines as to be a failure. This is not changing. Right. So what basically the retry behavior that we are taking care is how many new machine we create after the first one fails.
I see. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, but yeah, we can discuss this on the PR, or hopefully because I understand it's kind of complicated. This is why I'm trying to do the PR, and eventually I can do also a demo as soon as I have something working.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Is there some other comments? I think that Florian, you have the raise hand still up from before. Okay, thank you. So if this is okay, there are no more questions. We can move on in the agenda. Next one is Richard.
Hello, happy new year, everyone. So this is just a quick one. We are forming a new feature group to discuss alternative communication patterns. So specifically looking at alternatives to the current management cluster can initiate a direct connection to all child clusters. And that's driven by the issue 6520 originally, but then there's some more use cases have started to fall out of that. So if you're interested, please comment on the 6902 PR, and then we will, when we get a group of people that are interested, we can send out a doodle to arrange a time to meet and things like that. But yeah, hit that issue and register your interest. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm sure there are folks interested because this is something that I discussed in the hallway tracking at KubeCon. Yeah, my only I will review the PR or feature group. My main call is that it is great to have small groups to tackle some issues, but please always keep care to report frequently to the main to the main audience, so the team will be up to date and the group will not do too many work without having feedback. So okay, thank you very much. Great to see this moving. Then we have Edwin and Christian.
Yeah, so we added or we're thinking of introducing a proposal to add a name servers field to the IP address, a CRD for IPAM. I guess the motivation is, I guess IPAM is a move away from using DHCP for clusters. So here we wanted to add the name service field so that we can completely remove the dependency on the DHCP for getting DNS information. So any feedback would be appreciated before we submit this for a pull request.
I don't know if there is someone that followed in detail the work about IPAM in the call. I have only one question just for my understanding. Is this proposal an amendment or a simple new field added on what we define with the IPAM proposal?
Yeah, it is an amendment to the IPAM proposal.
Okay, in that case, in my opinion, it will be better to just amend the proposal, and you have to basically update the last update date, and usually we add at the end a new line implementation history. So it's kind of we keep proposals a living document that reflect the state of the system instead of piling them up for small changes.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. We'll do that.
Stefan?
I'm definitely not an expert on network. Just from an IP address management perspective, it sounds a little bit strange to add a name server to an IP address. I mean, I think it definitely makes sense if you look at it that you want to replace DHCP. But it feels to me like it's an additional piece of network configuration for a machine, not necessarily something which belongs to an IP address. But I could be totally wrong and definitely the wrong one to assess that. would be definitely good to hear Jacob's input on that, because he did the initial IP work.
Yeah, I'd also like to hear his input on that. I can see your concern. It is an additional piece of configuration that's like not necessarily IP address management, but it is filling in the role for DHCP. So I'm still kind of in between on that too.
And what definitely makes sense is to get feedback from Jacob. Maybe I don't know what you already have, but it would. I think it would definitely make sense to open an issue in the cluster API repository. Maybe with a link to the proposal, to the current document, and then we can just CC all the people who might have an opinion, and see what they think, and maybe also, I mean, I don't know, either if it fits there or not, or maybe there are also other alternatives where that could be placed and would work. In the end, I don't really know, to be honest.
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you, Stefan. This is a good suggestion. So if we are, yeah, let's maybe have a discussion on an issue on a simple statement of problem, and it will be easier to loop a person in. And yeah, we can use the existing the existing PR that you have as a reference, but the issue will facilitate discussion. Okay, is there someone else that want to comment on this proposal? Okay, let's move on. Jonathan.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that I launched a V1.1 release of the Visualizer app, and I've added multi-arch image support, a dark theme, and a settings panel. If you give me a screen share, I can also just show the changes really quickly.
Yes, give me a second, Jonathan. Make cost. You should get cost grant now, and I've stopped sharing.
Yeah, so here's the main change here. And you can toggle the dark theme. You can change the export format between YAML and JSON. And you can also set the background refresh period, or you can turn it off. So that's what the dark theme looks like. And here should be the new images. So you can have AMD 64, ARM 64, PPC, and S390X. And yeah, that's it for the Visualizer update.
This looks really, really nice. I see a lot of good comments in the chat. Okay, I go back sharing. Yeah, awesome work. Just a reminder that if you are using the Tilt development environment to work with cluster API providers, it is super easy to get the visualizer on. It is just a flag in your Tilt config file. And yeah, it is a super nice project. It really helps when debugging or working with cluster API. Thank you, Jonathan. And if there are no more comments, we can move on to provider updates. And we have Jake.
Real quick mention that 170 of CAPZ is planning for release today. It's going to be a really, really big release, so it's hard to summarize. So come hang out with us on CAFE Slack if you'd like details. And then finally, I wanted to mention, after we cut 170, we plan to land a graduation PR, which moves the managed Kubernetes AKS solution out of experimental, which we will then bake during the upcoming development cycle and ship with 1.8.0. That's it.
That's great to see so many progress on the Azure providers, and yeah, great also to see progress on the managed and on the support for managed Kubernetes. Next up is Jonathan about the Helm provider. If I'm
yeah,
not wrong.
Just quick update about that. Since everyone's back for the new year, I've opened the PR to get a Kubernetes SIG repo to migrate my prototype into there. I've set up all the copyright stuff and all the files they asked for, and we just need to wait to get it created. So I've been in touch with I think it's Bob and Lubomir about that, and hopefully we should be able to get that soon.
That's great. Usually when Bob taking charge of the stuff, we are really near the finish line. So I hope that you will get the provider, the repository soon.
Yeah. I just figured people were probably out during the holidays, so I didn't really expect much to happen then, but hopefully in the new year, we can get that done soon.
Okay, thank you very much. So I saw Stefan adding a topic on agenda. Is it okay, Stefan, if we go back to this topic after finishing the feature group update? Absolutely. Okay. So let's continue. So after provider upgrade, we have a feature group updates. Just a note, we recently introduced the feature groups, which are basically working groups composed by different forks that try to address or make a cluster API or the entire ecosystem to make progresses in some area. So let's get the first update from the Managed Kubernetes Working Group from Jake.
Yeah, just real quick, I wanted to paste a link to the recording of today's quick discussion. The main outcome of that was a sort of boilerplate template document that will capture any proposal that comes out of this feature group. So as you can see, lots of ship that proposal right now. The most uncontroversial it'll ever be.
Okay,
that's it.
Thank you for the grade. Also, thank you for the effort in keeping all the trying to track the work of the working group in a way that everyone else can review in a sync way, according to their time and time zone, etc., etc. Thank you. Okay, we are at the end of the agenda, so let's go back to Stefan on
yep. Sorry, I thought you were finished. Can you open the issue?
Sure.
Just want to give a quick update for interested parties. So essentially, the work is done so that we support 1.26 in cluster API. So that means cluster API can run on 126 clusters, and we can create and update, etc. 1.26 management clusters, workload clusters. The first half of the issue. The second half is not finally done, but we only need the first part to be able to manage and run on 126 clusters. What might be interesting, so we merged it like I think a few days or last week on main, and we merged it this week on 1.3 and on 1.2. Together with corresponding test coverage. What might be interesting, we didn't have to change anything in our implementation. So technically, we will only support 126 in our upcoming patch releases in February, but given that we didn't change anything, I would expect it to work already today. So if providers are using one of the latest patch releases from yesterday, and or you want to set up test pipelines or something for 126, I would expect it to just work. And of course, we also have the new pipelines which are already testing the upgrade from 126 to whatever 127 CI is at the moment. So just FYI. The last part of the issue is only bumping controller runtime and controller tools. But of course, we will only do this on a main branch. There are already PRs open since today. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much for the update. And I also want to give kudos to these contributors. Sorry, I don't pronounce the name because I will get it wrong for sure, who did a lot of work with regards to the Kubernetes bump. And thank you very much. Great work. Okay, so if I'm not wrong, we are at the end of our agenda, unless there is some last minute topic that we want to talk about. Okay, great, folks. Let's have some time back today. Have a nice week. See you next Wednesday.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Fabrizio.